What's going on, knuckleheads? This is the Fighters Rep coming at you immediately after the Artem Lobov versus Jason Knight 2 BKFC 9 bare knuckle bout, and it was a banger. Not as close as the first one, but exciting nonetheless. And we've got Jason Knight coming away with the TKO victory in round number 5 over Artem Lobov. Before we continue here, if you like to talk about combat sports and you want to join the discussion, please hit that subscribe button below, the bell notification icon next to it. And we're always going to be here ready to go and discuss combat sports. We do this Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. And immediately after all the big fights, we also had the UFC today, but I kind of want to concentrate on the Lobov Knight fight because I thought it was a bit more exciting than the UFC fight today, which we'll get into a little bit later on. So we've got Giacomo Family and Rambo Tahin in the chat. Thanks for joining me, brothers. Giacomo, what happened? 30 seconds. I mean, it was a 5th round TKO stoppage. It wasn't 30 seconds, so I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Rambo Tahin, he says, have Kose Artem. Not sure what you're saying there, brother. But what happened was, it was a good fight like the first one, albeit Jason Knight was a lot more technical this time around. He didn't get into the brawl. He didn't throw his strategy out the window the way he did the first time that they fought. He fought a measured technical fight using his reach advantage over Artem Lobov. Lobov was just throwing haymakers from his hips for the entirety of the fight, trying to get in on the inside. I thought Jason Knight was in complete control of this fight, using his range, and he just couldn't miss with the right hand today and kept landing over and over on Artem Lobov's left eye. Eventually, I think it was at the second round or the third round, Artem Lobov's left eye was just completely shut. Also, though, at the second round, at the end of it, Knight hit Lobov with an uppercut and seemed to hurt his hand and was a lot more hesitant on throwing that hand. And I thought to myself, oh man, this fight may change now. The momentum of this fight may swing back in Jason Knight's favor, and that's kind of what, or in Artem Lobov's favor, and that's kind of what happened. I felt like Knight was in control for the first 2 rounds, and then Artem Lobov, after Knight seemed to hurt that right hand, started to come back, started to find his distance a bit more because Knight was a lot more hesitant in throwing that right hand. And then eventually, Knight kind of started going to the body instead of the head because he didn't want to keep hurting that knuckle, but kept finding his openings. Unfortunate for Lobov, that left eye was completely shut by that point. Knight kept going for the left eye, knowing it was basically hurt. I mean, and then ended the fight. Essentially ended the fight with a shot to that already shut left eye. And I thought to myself, man, if Artem's not getting up because of this shot to the eye, it must be because perhaps his orbital bone is damaged or something happened. And the reason I say that is because Knight hit him on the eye. I mean, I believe it was a jab. It might have been a jab straight to the eye or a straight right hand. I can't remember now. But straight shot right to the eye. Lobov backed up, and it was a delayed reaction. So to me, that kind of indicates that perhaps, there was some damage there, and it took a while to really resonate. I think if he would have gone down from the impact, it would have happened immediately. But it wasn't like an impactful shot. It was just a shot on an already damaged eye, and Lobov just couldn't take it anymore. So he went down to his knees. He put his face down. All credit to him though, man. He got back up, but you could see his cornerman, especially in the replay. You could see him. And he said, oh no, he was waving it off already. So his team wasn't going to let him keep fighting because, man, that could have been some serious damage to his eye. Afterwards, obviously, he was extremely emotional. He's a father. He's got a family. He just came off of a loss. They were talking about a trilogy, but he was really, obviously he was really hurt by the result. Artem Lobov is a warrior, you guys. I mean, we could say what we want to say about Artem Lobov, right? People make a lot of jokes about Lobov, Lord Artem, and this and that. But at the end of the day, the guy is a warrior. And man, if I'm sure his eye was in tremendous pain for him to quit. I mean, you could just look at it even during the post-fight interview. It was dripping blood, not out of the eye proper, but out of the cut that happened underneath the swollen eye. I mean, it was dripping blood, and he couldn't see anything. So just nasty, finish for Jason Knight, who, got himself a huge win. I mean, a guy like Artem Lobov, whether we like it or not, is a big name, especially in bare knuckle. He's probably the biggest name in bare knuckle, I think, other than, maybe Chris Lieben. I mean, I can't really think of anyone else, and he's definitely bigger, at this point of his career than Chris Lieben is. So, huge win for Jason Knight, who, looked really good. I mean, and he didn't really take a lot of damage. Artem Lobov, again, was throwing these big, ugly, looping haymakers for the entirety of the fight. Just not that technical, but at the same time, trying to land the big shots because he's a much, smaller guy and has a lesser reach. So, so there you have it, knuckleheads. Jason Knight, TKO win in the 5th round. Before I continue, I just want to ask you guys, please subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon next to it. Feel free to donate to the Super Chat. You'll help us build this channel and also build Fighters Rep Promotions. We've got 4 dates next year. We're the only kickboxing promotion in the whole state of California. Our next event is February 28th, live out of the Ames Sportsplex in Seal Beach, California. The most exciting combat sport in the world. I guarantee if you tune in, you're going to love it. We'll probably be airing live on Fight TV, and then we'll upload all the fights subsequently on YouTube. Also, you can get your Fighters Rep gear in the description below, and we're an Amazon affiliate, so if you click anything in that Amazon affiliate link and then buy something, we'll get credit for that. So let's head over to the chat, see what everybody's talking about here. Jamaican Boxing, much love to you, brother. Thank you so much for joining the chat. He says Lobov should be a Hall of Famer for having more losses than wins. Damn, my dude. Rambo Tahin says many pain, and then smiles. Rambo, you are a sadistic man. D-Boy65, thanks for joining the chat. He asks, who won? The person that won tonight was Jason Knight with a 5th round TKO victory over Artem Lobov. And really, I mean, a rather dominant performance. I thought it was a rather clear-cut win for Jason Knight. I mean, Artem did make a bit of a comeback in the 3rd round, maybe the 4th round. He did okay, but Knight was really in control. I felt like the first couple rounds, got a knockdown in the 2nd round. The 3rd round, I think he kind of let his foot off the gas a bit because he hurt his right hand, as I indicated, by landing a big uppercut on Artem Lobov. But just I thought, a clear-cut win for Jason Knight. I thought he would have won a decision had it not been ended in the 5th round with a TKO. So, yeah, Jason Knight with the win, D-Boy. Rambo Tahin says, now is 1-1, must give rematch. And yes, Rambo, we call that 3rd fight when there's a split, the rubber match. They did ask about the rubber match immediately after the fight. Jason Knight indicated that he's more than willing to give it to Artem Lobov. I'm sure Artem Lobov is going to want it as well. Didn't really indicate that because obviously he was emotional after the fight. But nonetheless, I do believe Artem Lobov is going to want that fight. This is a payday for him. This is something that keeps him relevant. And so I do definitely see him coming back, assuming he didn't really take too much damage to that eye. One of the things that worries me is that he may have gotten his orbital bone broken there. And, that's a real, I think, issue with this bare knuckle thing as well. People's knuckles are going to be, gone. They're going to be going left and right, as well as the orbital bones, man. I do believe if you connect with a knuckle right on that orbital, it's going to be a huge problem for a lot of guys. So that's something also to take into consideration if you're going to be a BKFC fighter. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the sport, but I am a fan of combat sports, and so I definitely watched it. I wanted to see what happened, and I must say that it was a much better performance from Jason Knight, rather, who put on a much more technical, strategic fight. Marco Martinez blowing up the chat with the same message over and over again. It's all good, brother. I'm messing with you. He said, I missed it. Was it a good match or a freak show? Well, that kind of, for me, it's a bit of a freak show. Because I'm not feeling the bare knuckle thing. I don't think it's conducive to a long career for these guys who've dedicated their lives to the sport or to combat sports. I don't think it's conducive for a long career. I don't think it's going to be worthwhile in the long run, the damage that they're going to be doing to their knuckles and potentially their faces and their skin. So I'm always going to look at it as a bit of a freak show, but at the same time, it is entertaining while it lasts, while they're in there. And so I guess take it with a grain of salt. However, it was a much better performance from Jason Knight. It was actually technical, which I appreciated. I thought Jason Knight was in there being a boxer, which I appreciated very much. And I enjoyed watching Jason Knight kind of change his strategy up from the first fight where he brawled. Irving Bruno, or rather, Marco Martinez says, my bad, I was glitching. Did you catch the UFC card? Absolutely caught the UFC card. I thought the main event was a little bit anticlimactic. I did think Jan Blachowicz, or Blachowicz, however you pronounce it, deserved the win in that fight, but it was a very uneventful and honestly not that exciting of a fight. It was basically a very careful and calculated striking match from a distance and featured a couple, stuffed takedowns from Jan Blachowicz because, the alligator, crocodile, whatever they want to call him, just was trying to take him down and just couldn't get him down to the ground to utilize his jiu-jitsu. So, Jacare kind of had to stand up and play pity-pat for 5 rounds with Blachowicz and just couldn't get off, couldn't do what he had to do to get the win, even though it was in Brazil. So I don't know. I thought it was a bit of an uneventful main event for a UFC card. Irving Bruno says Tony versus Khabib. Thought on who wins that fight? If I'm going to be honest with you on that one, I definitely think Khabib wins just based on his momentum at this point. Khabib is an absolute killer. He's never lost in the octagon. Tony is a guy who, let's be honest, has lost and is coming off of a serious surgery and hasn't really had any great fights since the surgery. He's a bit older. I just don't see how a guy like Tony Ferguson, with the basically lack of activity he's had recently, is going to fare against an absolute monster like Khabib, who's been taking the toughest fights in front of the, craziest, most pressure-filled audiences and venues. And I just think Khabib is in a place right now where it's going to be very tough to beat him. If anybody can beat him, it is absolutely Tony Ferguson. But if I got to put my money on somebody, I'm going to put it on Khabib in that fight. Let's see here. Muay Thai 23. Thanks for joining the chat. Hey, guys, if you haven't already, subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon. We do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. We talk about combat sports. And we do this immediately after every big fight. This is the only non-biased, non-tribal, open to everybody combat sports forum where you can say whatever you like, at least within reason. And we welcome everybody's opinion, so we appreciate you guys joining. So please hit that subscribe button. Feel free also to donate to the Super Chat. And check out our fights. We upload all our fights. We are the only kickboxing promotion in the state of California. We upload our fights free on YouTube for you guys to enjoy. So Muay Thai 23 says, that Artem Knight fight sucked chocolate starfish. That is an interesting term for whatever you may be using there. I didn't think it totally sucked. I thought it was some action going on there, but I can totally respect it if you thought the fight sucked. Let me know, why you thought the fight sucked, though. I mean, I thought it was just your typical run-of-the-mill bare-knuckle fight. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Same shit we always see most of the time. Wasn't as good as the first one, but I thought it was still pretty fun to watch. That said, it's still a bit of a train wreck, so we'll leave it at that. Jamaican Boxing says, who do you think Conor will fight next? I think it's going to either be Donald Cerrone or maybe Frankie Edgar. I think that's what I was hearing, but I'm really not sure who this guy's going to pick to fight next. We'll have to wait and see. I don't think the UFC will give him somebody that he could lose to, though. I think they're going to give him a striker, and I think they're going to give him somebody he's definitely got advantages over. Because let's not forget, Conor McGregor, whether you like him or not, is a huge draw. He's big money. And the UFC is going to want to take care of that baby. It is a business at the end of the day, knuckleheads. So, yeah. Who do you guys think Conor's going to fight next? Or who do you think should fight Conor next? Suleiman in the chat. Thank you for joining the chat, brother. Suleiman says Charlie Zelenoff needs to get into bare knuckle, but everyone would be too scared to fight the real GOAT. Yeah, it should be Charlie Zelenoff versus Artem Lobov in the GOAT versus GOAT match, or the BGMF, I don't know. Him and Artem Lobov, once he beats Jason Knight in the rubber match, for the GOAT, baddest GOAT in the universe, whatever match. That's what it should be. Muay Thai 23 says it's 100% going to be Cerrone. So Muay Thai 23 thinks Conor McGregor is going to come back and fight Cowboy Cerrone. I actually think that would be an entertaining fight, and I do favor McGregor, but my goodness, could you imagine if Cerrone lands one of those one of those head kicks and knocks McGregor out or some shit like that? There's always the risk of that happening with Cerrone because, he could really kick. And I don't know, I'd be really excited to see that. I just think Cerrone is a bit too slow. He doesn't have the reflexes of a guy like Conor McGregor, and I just think he'd get clipped. I could be wrong, but I think he'd definitely get clipped. Let's see. Muay Thai 23 says, been too much talk about it already. They could be selling it sort of under the, subconsciously to us. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'd be excited, though, to watch that fight because I do think that that would be a fun fight. Two strikers throwing it down in Conor McGregor's return fight. And I'm sure there'd be a lot of trash talk between Cerrone and Conor McGregor. Suleiman says it's 1,000,000% going to be Donald washed up Cowboy. Damn, Suleiman. Washed up. That's ruthless, brother. I actually like Cowboy, man. And, I don't think Cowboy's done that bad, especially since he's become a dad. I think he's put on some good fights, I do think, though, he always falls short when he fights the best guys. And that's really unfortunate, because he's got so many wins. He's got so much experience. He's so likable. But he always, fights the best guys and loses to them. He gets to the mountaintop and just can never reach the very summit, I guess. It always falls short. So that's a real shame. I would have loved to see him maybe win a belt or something, but it doesn't look like it's in the cards for him, if I'm being honest. Angel Gabriel, thank you so much for joining the chat. Angel Gabriel says Charles Oliveira. Man, that'd be a good fight, but I don't know if they'd want to put Conor in there with Oliveira because he'd probably just take him down and choke him out. And that's definitely not something the UFC is going to want to do. Jamaican Boxing says Conor should fight Gaethje, but of course he won't take that risk. Oh, man. You know what, Jamaican Boxing? That would be even more entertaining than the Cowboy Cerrone fight. I love the way Gaethje fights, and that guy is a berserker when he's in that octagon, my man. So yeah, definitely would want to see Justin Gaethje fight Conor McGregor. I think that's the one. That's the one that I want to see. But they won't give him that fight after this kind of hiatus. They know better than to do that. Suleiman says Conor McGregor logic is to beat Donald Cerrone and Frankie Edgar and get a title shot after. That's probably what would happen. But you know, he's definitely going to have to earn it, man, because Khabib's been doing his thing and Tony Ferguson's doing his thing. And you know what? They should do a Tony Ferguson versus McGregor fight if Tony doesn't fight Khabib and McGregor gets past whoever the next opponent is. I want to see Conor McGregor fight Tony Ferguson. I think that'd be a really fun fight. Or how about Conor McGregor and Kevin Lee? That'd be another fun fight too, especially with Lee coming off that brutal knockout of Gregor Gillespie, man. My goodness, that was vicious, man. Did you guys see that knockout? Definitely check it out if you haven't. Suleiman says, Donald Cerrone is nothing more than a top 10 gatekeeper at this point. Suleiman with the brutal honesty, the hard truth. Brother, you always come with it. Whether you're being serious or joking around, you always come with it. And I think you're right, man. It's a sad, sad situation for Donald Cowboy Cerrone. I do wish, again, that he would have fought for a title and maybe won it, but doesn't look like at this point in his career it's in the cards for him anymore. Irving Bruno says, who do you think would give Ryan Garcia his first loss? You know, I'm not sure. I mean, I think if they move him too fast, he will come across somebody that can beat him. But I mean, who is there in that, that division that at this time is a fight that would make sense, that has about the same amount of experience as he does and would beat him? I'd like your thoughts on that. I just can't think of anyone that has about his level of experience that would beat him. I mean, I thought Dunno would be a good fight, the last fight he had, but I mean, he starched him in the first round, so that was really impressive, and the kid's really fast. He obviously hits really hard. I don't think people are giving him the credit that he deserves, but Ryan Garcia can fight, man. Ryan Garcia can fight, man, and he's real slim. He's still very young. I think he's going to go up a few weight classes by the time his career is over. I do think he's going to make some noise, man. I really hope Golden Boy doesn't screw up in directing his career, because they seem to be screwing up quite a bit, if I'm being honest. And I don't know, man. I don't know what the hell is going on with Golden Boy. I hope they get their stuff straight. They've got the biggest cash cows and potential cash cows right now in the world in Canelo Alvarez and this, Ryan Garcia, who could potentially be a huge star. And I feel like they're squandering it. I don't know. Let's see here. Suleiman says Jorge Masvidal is really campaigning for a Nick Diaz fight. If he fights Nick Diaz before fighting the winner of Kamaru versus Colby, I will lose all respect for Masvidal. Well, I actually wouldn't lose respect for Masvidal, man. If Nick Diaz is calling him out and he wants to fight Nick Diaz, then let him fight Nick Diaz. What's the big deal? He'll probably make a lot of money too. I mean, could you imagine how many people would tune in to watch Nick Diaz try to avenge the beating that his brother took in that last fight against Masvidal. I think that backstory would be huge. That would sell a ton of money. But if I'm being honest, man, I don't think Nick Diaz is anywhere near being in fight shape or active enough to beat a guy like Masvidal. And I do prefer Masvidal to fight the winner of Colby versus Kamaru, but Masvidal said it, man. He's after the money fights. And so anything that puts zeros in his bank account, he's going to go after it. Big Money, thank you for joining the chat. He says, dude, Devin Haney will beat the hell out of Ryan Garcia. I agree with that. I thought more of Devin Haney before this last fight he had. I thought he performed sort of poorly. And I thought Billy Joe Saunders also performed poorly on that bullshit Logan Paul KSI 2 undercard. But I do think Devin Haney would beat Ryan Garcia. I definitely do think that. I do think the talk, though, after having seen that last fight, of Devin Haney going in there and beating up Lomachenko is a bit premature. I can't agree with that. But Devin Haney is a bad young man, and I do think he would beat Ryan Garcia. I think, though, you got to give them both time to sort of marinate and develop, and then we'll see where it goes. You know what I mean? Suleiman says Nate Diaz versus McGregor and Jorge versus Nick Diaz on the same card would be historical pay-per-view sales for UFC. Not gonna lie. Dude, can you imagine that? That would be crazy, man. That would be crazy. Big Money's now saying Irving Haney will beat the piss out Garcia. I don't know about that one, Big Money. I think Garcia is actually a pretty good fighter, and I think you're kind of not giving the kid the credit he deserves. Definitely Haney's better, but you still got to give the kid credit. I mean, he went out there and clipped Romero Dunno, who's a tough kid, in the first round, my man. Like, it couldn't have gone better for him than that. So I do give the kid some respect, but yeah, I think Devin Haney's better for sure. Suhail Moideen says Artur Beterbiev is underrated. I did think that he's underrated, or was underrated going into that Gvozdyk fight. But I think now people know like what Beterbiev is about. And I do think for a while people looked at Beterbiev like, damn, this is the guy to beat at light heavyweight. But then I felt like Gvozdyk kind of took some of that luster away. And people probably thought he was going to win. I know I thought he was going to win based on his boxing technique. I actually thought he would probably win. But Beterbiev showed, man, that he also has that strong amateur boxing pedigree. And yeah, I agree. He was underrated. I don't think he's underrated anymore, though. I think he earned everybody's respect at this time. And I think that he's the best in the light heavyweight division. And I don't think Canelo would ever fight that guy. Canelo would never fight that guy, ever. Ever, ever, never he would fight that guy. Suleiman says, are we going to pretend that Colby or Kamaru would have just ragdoll Nick Diaz for 25 minutes straight? I want Masvidal versus the best. And I can't blame you, and that's what we talk about on this channel, Suleiman. And that's why I appreciate you so much, brother, because we want the best fighting the best, and I agree with the best fighting the best. But these guys are prize fighters. They do want to make money. And I do think a Nick Diaz fight in the interim would be something that Masvidal might be interested in if it made him enough money. But obviously, I want to see Masvidal against the winner of Kamaru Colby. That's my preference, obviously. Suhail says, I don't like how Masvidal is looking for money fights instead of the title. Be like Khabib. He ignores the red panty night. McGregor. Well, Suhail, you can't ignore the red panty night all the time, brother. Sometimes we got to just jump in to some red panties But I agree. We want the best fight in the best. That's how we get down on this channel, especially. We want the best fight in the best. Big Money is saying, LOL, I meant to say Irving Bruno. Well, I don't know about that one, champ. I got to take a closer look at Irving Bruno and see what I think. But I do think Ryan Garcia is a talented young kid. Guys, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell notification icon below. By doing so, you join us. Join Knucklehead Nation. We do this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. That's 10 p.m. Eastern. We also go live after all the big fights to discuss what just went down. And also, we are the only kickboxing promotion in California. If I'm being honest, one of the few pro kickboxing promotions probably in the whole United States. So by joining us, donating to the channel, getting your Fighters Rep gear below, or clicking the Amazon affiliate link and buying something from there, you're helping us build the only kickboxing promotion in the state of California, and probably one of the few in the whole United States. So thank you guys so much for being here. Let's see here. Suleiman says, Ryan Garcia took out Dunno in less than 2 minutes. Devin Haney went the distance with an Argentinian Uber Eats driver. Hey, Big Money, Suleiman's coming for you with that one, brother. I think he might have a point there. I did not like Devin Haney's performance against, I believe he was Dominican, Suleiman. I believe he was Dominican, not Argentinian. I believe he was a Dominican Uber Eats driver. Suhail says, breakdown Habib. I think he says Habib versus Holloway. Man, I think, if I'm being honest, I think that's a good fight. Obviously, on the feet, Holloway's a problem. But I do think eventually, Habib would track him down, take him down, and beat him up like he does everybody else. Oh, okay, you meant Zabit. Man, Zabit versus Holloway would be a lot of fun. That'd be a lot of fun. I do think that would be a very special stand-up battle. I do think that, if I'm being honest, I do think Zabit is better on the ground than Max Holloway. Better in the transitions. I think the striking is about the same. Zabit may be a bit more dynamic, but I do think that Max Holloway is very technical in his Muay Thai, and I would love to watch that fight, man. That's a 50-50 fight to me. At least that's what I think about it. Tell me what you think, Suhail. Maverick Official says the real dog fight is Nick Diaz. He says Nick Diaz is going to fuck up Masvidal. And then he says Conor sucks. And then he says Tony will handle Conor, easy work for Ferguson. Maverick Official, I think you're tripping, my man. Nick Diaz, in my opinion, will get beat up by Masvidal. Bad. He'll get beat up worse than Nate Diaz got beat up. That's my opinion. And, I think Nick Diaz gets beat up bad. I don't think Tony beats Habib either, I don't think Tony beats Habib. I do think Tony can beat Conor, though. I do agree with you there. Suleiman says, we honestly don't even know how good Masvidal is because he doesn't fight the best. We've never seen Masvidal against Woodley or Edwards or Colby or Kamaru. I love how you're bringing up Edwards. Look at you instigating, Suleiman. Who are you working for, Suleiman? Maverick Official says Woodley, Usman are on steroids. Everybody's on steroids according to the Diaz brothers, Maverick Official. Suleiman says he was thrusted into stardom by beating Ben Askren, who made a career off wrestling skinny Malaysians to death. Oh my God, Suleiman. Jesus Christ. Maverick Official says Woodley is on steroids. and Woodley to Usman. Okay, so Woodley and Usman are on steroids according to Maverick official, and that may be true. That may be true. We will not judge anybody's, PED record unless we have an actual positive hit. So I don't want to go there, but I'd rather just see them fight and sort out who the man is in that division. Suhail says, but Zabit has poor cardio. He either has poor cardio or what he's saying about his infection and taking antibiotics was true. And maybe that's why he tired out in his last fight. That could be the reason he tired out. So Jamaican Boxing says, not because you don't know someone means that they are a bum. Haney fought a game opponent who was undefeated and still won every round. Well, I mean, he was a game opponent, and you're right, you're right. Just because he's an unknown doesn't mean he isn't good. We saw that in Otto Valin against Tyson Fury. So you're right about that. Maybe he's decent. But do I think he's so good that he beats Klitschko, which is what a lot of people on YouTube are saying? He beats Klitschko? Nah, man. I can't agree with that. That he beats Klitschko. Lomachenko is what I mean. I'm saying Klitschko over here. I had too much Johnny Walker today. Lomachenko. I mean, is he so good he beats Lomachenko if he's going 12 rounds with this guy? I don't know, man. I think Lomachenko's better. G-Dog, thank you for joining the chat, brother. He says Nick is too old now. And I agree with G-Dog. Nick is too old now, knuckleheads. And I don't think Nick, even in his prime, could beat Jorge Masvidal in the form he's at now. But I could be wrong. Suleiman says, I think Max Holloway would fuck Nick Diaz up. And you know what? I agree with that too. He would. At this point, yes. Suhail says, Khabib or Colby or Usman at 170. Break it down. I don't think Khabib does well at 170. I think once he gets to 170, he's got bigger guys that are wrestlers like Colby and Usman, and he won't be able to do what he does to the guys at 155. So no, Khabib stays at 155. If Khabib goes to 170, he can get beat. He's beatable by those guys. Suleiman says Khabib doesn't want anything to do with 170. I agree 100% with you on that one. Suleiman, Khabib needs to stay away from 170. Let him do his thing at 155. He's doing fine down there. Get that legacy, stamped with the seal of approval once he beats Tony Ferguson. And then he can just ride off into the sunset, and then let Islam Makhachev take over, who I think might be the guy to take over next for Khabib. Tell me what you guys think about that. I think Islam is a really good fighter. Juris, thank you so much for joining the chat, brother. He says cardio is relative to your lung size. That may be true. Appreciate that comment. G-Dog 0331 says Jones versus Stipe at heavyweight. Man, that would be a lot of fun. I don't know. I've always thought Jones would win that fight. Because he's got great wrestling. He's got great takedown defense. He's more dynamic in the stand-up. But Stipe has better boxing in the stand-up. Jones has the elbows and the kicking. So it would be interesting. And then after seeing Jones sort of struggle against a big, strong guy in Thiago, I think it was Thiago Silva that he fought that last fight. Thiago Silva, the guy's name, the one with the hammer on his chest. I felt like Jones kind of struggled in that fight against that guy. So a big, strong guy like Stipe Miocic, I think could give Jones some problems. Before that Thiago fight, I thought for sure John Jones would just beat up Stipe Miocic. But, after seeing that fight against Maheta or whatever they call him, Thiago Silva, I don't know so much anymore, man. I would still probably favor Jones, but I could see Stipe beating him. I could see that happening. Juris says, this is why everybody says Conor has bad cardio. He doesn't have bad cardio. He just puts on more muscle than his lungs can feed at the higher weights. I appreciate that very much, Jurist. And G-Dog corrected me. It's Thiago Santos. That's what it is. Thiago Santos. I don't know why I was saying Thiago Silva. I was thinking Thiago Silva. Thiago Santos. Yeah. I thought Santos gave him trouble, man. Split decision win with his knee blown out. So it makes me feel like Stipe could really, could do something potentially. But again, I'd always have to go with Jones if that fight happens. G-Dog says he has fast twitch muscle fibers. Don't last long. Last like slow twitch. Okay. I get it. Suleiman says Ben Askren kind of exposed how fucked up UFC and Dana White are when it comes to rank jumping. He was bragging about how if he would have beaten Masvidal, he would have gotten a title fight, while Edwards won 6. Won 6 in a row. This was a recent YouTube video Ben Askren was in. If CM Punk won 2 fights, he would have gotten a title shot as well. You're absolutely right about that, dude. CM Punk would have definitely got the title shot had he been able to win it all, but unfortunately, he couldn't win. Also, man, what do you guys think about Ben Askren? I mean, does he even continue to fight after getting put to sleep by Damian Maia, getting wrecked by Jorge Masvidal, getting, pummeled, and basically winning on a controversy by or against Robbie Lawler? I mean, is this guy, should this guy continue to fight in the UFC? Because, I mean, there's a real case for him being 0-2-1 in the UFC, with that last one being like a no contest or something with Robbie Lawler. I don't know. I mean, he's not looking good in the UFC. Jura says at 145 pounds, you never saw him tire in his fights. And I think Juris is talking about Conor McGregor at this point. Juris, you seem very interested in cardiovascular. Do you have some sort of knowledge about this? I'd appreciate it very much if you share that with us. G-Dog says, I subbed, man. Good channel. See you after the next fight for sure, brother. And again, we're on this thing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific, immediately after the big fights. I was actually going to get Regis Prograis on the channel today. I've been texting back and forth with him. He's in New Orleans, though, so the timing's a little bit off. I was going to get him on the show because I really admire Regis Prograis. He fits the narrative of our channel, which is the best fighting the best. As you guys know, he's one of the best at 140 pounds in boxing. He flew over to the UK to fight Josh Taylor. Came up a little short in what was a fantastic fight. And I was going to get him on the channel. So, definitely tune in the next couple days. I'll probably have him on. We've already interviewed him in the past. I actually went to Churchill's Boxing to interview him. You can watch that interview on the channel as well as a bunch of others. But yeah, we're going to be getting more interviews on the channel, live interviews, whether it's audio or video or whatever it is. And I hope you guys tune in. Suhail says, what's your dream crossover fight between UFC and Bellator? I don't know, I really have no idea. You caught me cold. I can't really think of anybody. Maybe Diego Lima coming over to the UFC, see how he would fare. I'd rather watch something like that. Their best guys come over and see how they do. You know what I mean? I'd like to see the best guys fight the best guys. It's interesting to me, and guys like Ryan Bader, who had so much success over there. I mean, it kind of makes me feel like Bellator is still the B League. But then, sometimes they have fantastic fighters there as well. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, who do you think would be a good crossover fight? Suleiman says, I think these guys at 170 might be too strong for Ben Askren. He should move up to 185 and fight Romero. Just kidding. He should try to make 155, in my opinion. Dude, could you imagine what Yoel Romero would do to that guy? Or Paulo the Eraser? Costa. That'd be a terrifying sight to behold. Suhail says, Kevin Lee versus Islam Makhachev would be epic. Excuse me. That would be a fun fight. I do think Islam Makhachev is a really good fighter. I do think that he's probably got a really good chance of replacing Khabib Nurmagomedov as the guy in that division eventually. That's assuming that Tony Ferguson, fights Khabib and loses. I do think Islam Makhachev might be the guy that's next in line. Suleiman says, Kevin Lee versus any Dagestani, he sees holes in all of them. Kevin Lee will be the mayor of Dagestan when it's all said and done. My goodness. Suleiman says, Cyborg versus Nunez 2, my dream crossover fight right now. That would be a lot of fun to watch that fight. But I feel like we'd probably get more of the same, man. Nunez is just too good, guys. Too good, in my opinion. But Knuckleheads, we've been on here for 45 minutes. I really appreciate you guys joining the chat. Not sure we'll come on tomorrow, but definitely Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. We've changed the time so that our buddies over on the East Coast can join us as well. So it's going to be 7 p.m. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We'll be talking all combat sports, but mostly boxing and MMA. We do have a date lined up for Fighters Rep 9, our first Pro-Am event. Again, the only Pro-Am, the only pro kickboxing promotion in the whole state of California, one of the few in the United States. I think we've got the most talented young fighters in the world that fight for us. So definitely, check out our fights and tune in. That's pretty much that, Knuckleheads. I appreciate you guys joining the chat. Be sure to join, subscribe if you haven't already, donate to the super chat, and until next time, Knuckleheads, keep it clean.